My dear friends, potentially Refocus. Let's start with something honest. Sometimes the hardest part isn't doing the work. It's admitting to ourselves that we need to start again. And I know, that can sting. Because when we say reset, it almost feels like failure, like we're confessing we messed everything up. But here's the truth most people never hear. Resetting isn't failure. Resetting is maturity. Resetting is saying, I'm done pretending this version of my life is enough. I'm choosing better. Think about your phone when it freezes. You don't throw it away. You restart it so it can function again. Your life works the same way. You aren't broken, you're just overloaded with old habits, old labels, old expectations, and voices in your head that don't belong there anymore. Some of you carry quiet guilt. You said you'd change last year. You promised yourself new habits, new priorities, new boundaries, and maybe life happened. Maybe distractions on, maybe fear whispered louder than courage. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you human. The question isn't, why didn't I do it sooner? The real question is, what am I going to do now that I know better? Resetting begins the moment you stop judging yourself and start being honest with yourself. Life quietly becomes autopilot. Days blur. You wake up, go through motions, and somewhere inside you feel that small ache that says, I was meant for more than this. That ache isn't annoyance, it's a reminder. It's your future calling you out. And yes, people around you may not understand. They may say, why change now? Or you're fine the way things are. But they don't have to live with your regrets. You do. They don't wake up in your mind carrying your dreams. You do. So your reset isn't a public announcement, it's a private decision. A quiet shift inside where you say, enough. I'm taking ownership again. Resetting also means forgiving yourself for wasted time, for bad choices, for staying too long where you knew you didn't belong. Not because those choices were okay, but because you're choosing to grow from them instead of staying trapped in them. This is where 2026 truly begins. Not with fireworks, not with motivational quotes, but with you choosing to wipe the slate clean, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You get to put the past back where it belongs, behind you. And when you give yourself permission to reset, something incredible happens. The weight lifts, your mind clears, possibility shows up again. You feel that spark, the one that says, maybe I can actually do this. You can. And resetting is the first step. Let's talk about that quiet comparison that eats at you. The feeling that everyone else is miles ahead, and you're starting from the back of the line. It shows up when you scroll, when you hear about someone's promotion, someone's engagement, someone's perfect life. And suddenly restarting feels embarrassing, like you're the only one still trying to figure things out while everyone else already has the map. Here's the reality most people hide. Almost everyone you admire has restarted more times than you think. They just don't post the messy drafts of their life. They show you the highlight reel. They don't show the nights they doubted themselves, the times they failed quietly, the versions of them that didn't work out. So you compare your behind the scenes with their final edit, and of course it feels unfair. Restarting isn't proof you're behind. Restarting is proof you're still in the game. Think about a runner who trips mid-race. The worst mistake isn't falling, it's refusing to stand up because the others kept moving. Some people never restart because their ego won't let them be seen starting small. But that small start is exactly where strength is rebuilt. And I want you to hear this clearly. Time is not your enemy. Comparison is. Everyone has a different pace, a different path, a different lesson schedule. Some people peak early and then plateau. Others move slowly, quietly, consistently, and they become unstoppable. You're not late, you're just on your timeline. Restarting also means letting go of the fantasy that you must have everything figured out before you move. You don't. Clarity is something you build while walking, not something you wait for while standing still. The first steps may feel awkward. You'll question yourself. You'll wonder, is this really it? That's normal. Growth rarely feels glamorous at the beginning. So here's what restarting actually looks like in real life. It looks like choosing one habit you can commit to instead of 10 you can't maintain. It looks like saying no to distractions that pretend to be opportunities. It looks like waking up on days you don't feel motivated and showing up anyway, even if all you can manage is a small effort. Those small efforts compound. They're quiet, but they're powerful. And yes, some people will doubt you. Some will remember your past version and expect you to stay there. Let them. You don't owe them explanations. Your progress does not require their permission. Let your results speak when the time comes. Right now, focus on building the person who can deliver those results. Restarting is also about believing that life can look different for you, not just for other people. The moment you decide you are worthy of a better chapter, your mind starts searching for ways to create it. That's not wishful thinking, that's direction. So if you feel behind, breathe. You're not starting from zero, you're starting from experience, stronger, wiser, clearer than before. And this restart isn't you going backward. It's you finally aligning your life with who you're becoming. Let's be real for a second. A lot of the pressure you feel isn't coming from your goals. It's coming from the image of success you think you're supposed to live up to. The perfect lifestyle, the endless achievements, the constant grind that looks impressive on a screen. And somewhere in the middle of chasing that image, you forget what actually matters to you. Refocusing is about pulling your attention back from the noise and asking a simple but uncomfortable question. If nobody was watching, what would I really want? Because here's the trap. When we chase validation, we build lives that look good but feel empty. We take jobs we don't love because the title sounds impressive. We buy things to prove we're doing okay instead of actually doing okay. We stay busy so people think we're important, even though deep down we feel lost. Refocus means stripping all of that away, gently, honestly, and getting clear on what truly moves your life forward. Sometimes that clarity starts with subtraction, not addition. Less scrolling, more thinking. Less comparing, more reflecting. Less trying to impress strangers, more building peace inside your own mind. When your attention isn't constantly scattered, you start noticing things. What drains you, what excites you, what aligns with the future you want. Let's talk about goals for a moment. Real goals don't exist to decorate your bio. Real goals challenge you, stretch you, and sometimes scare you because they require growth. But they also feel grounded. They connect to your values. They make sense to the person you want to become. Refocusing is not about becoming antisocial, disappearing, or rejecting ambition. It's about choosing ambition that actually belongs to you, not copied from someone else's timeline. You might realize that what matters most right now isn't showing progress, but healing, or learning, or rebuilding confidence. You might discover that being present with your family matters more than chasing every opportunity, or that developing a skill quietly in the background will create more long-term impact than trying to look successful today. And here's something important. Refocusing takes courage. It can feel like you're stepping out of the crowd, choosing a slower lane, or making decisions people won't understand. But peace often sits on the other side of misunderstood choices. You don't live for their approval, you live with your outcomes. One powerful shift happens when you refocus. Your energy stops leaking everywhere. Instead of doing 20 things halfway, you start doing a few things well. Momentum builds, confidence returns, you feel less scattered and more intentional, and life slowly starts aligning. So maybe this year isn't about proving anything, maybe it's about clarity, about building a life that feels steady, meaningful, and honest. When your focus is right, everything else becomes simpler. Not easier, but clearer. And clarity is the foundation that every strong future stands on. This is where the distractions fade and your real priorities finally take center stage. Let's clear up one big misunderstanding. Discipline is not a personality trait you're either born with or doomed to live without. Discipline works more like a muscle. If you train it, it grows. If you neglect it, it weakens. And just like any workout, the beginning usually feels uncomfortable, not because you're incapable, but because you're out of practice. Most people wait to feel ready. They wait for motivation, inspiration, the perfect morning routine, the perfect schedule. But motivation is like weather. It changes. Some days it's sunny, some days it isn't. Discipline is what you build for the days that don't feel inspiring at all. And here's what surprises a lot of people. Disciplined people don't always feel like doing the work either. They just stop negotiating with themselves every time it gets uncomfortable. They understand that showing up imperfectly still counts and often matters more than waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. Rebuilding discipline starts small. I mean really small. One promise you keep to yourself each day. Wake up 10 minutes earlier. Walk instead of scrolling. Read 2 pages. Drink water before coffee. It might seem tiny, almost insignificant, but those wins stack. They send a message to your brain. When I say I'll do something, I follow through. That trust with yourself is powerful. It's the foundation of discipline. The opposite is also true. When you constantly break promises to yourself, you start believing your own excuses more than your own goals. And then the cycle continues. Guilt, frustration, more avoidance. Not because you're lazy, but because your brain stops trusting that your words actually mean anything. So let's flip that script. Think progress, not perfection. If you slip, restart quickly. Not next month, not Monday, not after things calm down. Restart the next hour. That's how discipline toughens up. Not through punishment, but through consistency. I want you to also notice the stories you tell yourself. I'm bad with routines. I never stick to anything. That's just not me. Those aren't facts, they're habits of thinking. And habits of thinking can change. Start telling yourself a new one. I can learn this. I get better when I practice. I don't quit on myself. Repeat it enough and your actions begin to match. Another important piece, environment. Willpower alone isn't the hero here. Set up your world so discipline becomes easier. Put your workout shoes where you can see them. Keep distractions out of reach. Create spaces that remind you of your goals. Make the right choice the simple choice. And be patient. Muscles don't grow overnight, and neither does discipline. There will be days you stumble, days you question yourself, days you move slower than you hoped. That's not failure, that's training. One day you'll look back and realize something quietly shifted. Tasks that used to overwhelm you will feel manageable. Habits that once felt impossible will feel natural. And you'll understand discipline wasn't something mysterious, it was simply you, showing up again and again, until consistency became your new normal. There's a moment in every journey where progress doesn't depend on learning something new, it depends on unlearning what's been holding you back. The habits, the cycles, the choices that feel familiar but keep leading you to the same place. And sometimes those patterns are so automatic that you don't even notice them anymore. They just run quietly in the background, steering your life. Let's slow down and get honest about them. Maybe your pattern is procrastinating until pressure forces you to move. Maybe it's saying yes to everything so you don't disappoint people, even when it drains you. Maybe it's quitting as soon as things stop feeling exciting, or disappearing when life gets hard instead of asking for help. These patterns didn't show up out of nowhere. They formed because at some point they protected you. They made life easier, safer, more comfortable. But what once protected you can also limit you. Breaking patterns starts with awareness. Notice when the same situations repeat. Notice when you hear yourself thinking, "Here I am again." That sentence is a gift. It means you're becoming conscious. And once you're conscious, you have a choice. Choice is where your power lives. Here's something important. Changing a pattern rarely feels dramatic at first. It usually looks like one different decision made in a moment, where you would have defaulted to the old one. Instead of avoiding the hard conversation, you have it. Instead of numbing your stress with distractions, you sit with it and take one constructive step. Instead of giving up after a bad day, you reset and come back tomorrow. Small, repeated choices, that's the doorway out. But expect resistance. Your brain loves familiarity. Even when familiar isn't healthy, it feels safe because it's known. So when you start doing things differently, you'll feel discomfort, doubt, maybe even fear. Not because you're going the wrong way, but because you're leaving the comfort of what you've always done. That discomfort is proof of growth. Another part of breaking free is letting go of identities that keep you stuck. I'm the unreliable one. I'm the person who always messes up. I'm not the disciplined type. These labels quietly shape your behavior. When you change how you see yourself, your actions eventually follow. Start describing yourself in future-focused language. I'm becoming someone who follows through. I'm learning to handle challenges. Speak to who you're building, not just who you were. And remember, not every pattern comes from laziness. Some come from hurt, from times you tried and got criticized, from seasons when survival mattered more than growth. Be gentle with yourself. You're not breaking chains to punish the old you. You're honoring the part of you that always wanted better. Over time, you'll notice shifts. The triggers that once controlled your reactions won't hit as hard. The loops you used to fall into will feel easier to step out of, and a life that once felt scripted will start to feel chosen. That's the beauty of breaking patterns. You don't just change your habits, you change the direction of your future. Whenever you're ready, we'll move into the next section where momentum begins to build even when motivation disappears. There's this myth that people who achieve big things wake up every day buzzing with motivation, like they're fueled by some magical energy the rest of us just don't have. But the truth is simpler and way less glamorous most days. Motivation is nowhere to be found. And yet progress still happens. How? Through momentum. Momentum starts with movement, not inspiration. Think about pushing a stalled car. The first shove is the hardest. It barely moves. Your body strains. Everything in you wants to stop. But once the wheels start rolling, it doesn't require the same effort. The same thing happens in life. The beginning feels heavy, awkward, slow. But when you keep showing up, even in small ways, something shifts. Tasks feel lighter, habits feel smoother, and your energy starts to follow your actions instead of trying to lead them. That's the key. Stop waiting to feel like it, act first. Let the feeling catch up later. Momentum is built in tiny, unglamorous decisions. Sitting down for 5 minutes to work when your mind screams later. Putting on your shoes and walking around the block when you'd rather scroll. Opening the book, making the call, sending the email. These aren't dramatic moments, they're quiet ones. But stacked together, they create motion, and motion changes everything. One practical shift that helps lower the entry bar. Instead of saying, I have to do an hour, say, I'll do 10 minutes. Instead of, I have to fix everything, say, I'll improve one thing today. When the task feels smaller, your brain stops panicking. And here's the funny part. Once you start, you often do more than you planned, not because of motivation, but because momentum pulled you forward. Another powerful habit is building anchor actions. These are simple routines that signal to your mind, we're in work mode now. Maybe it's making your bed, opening your laptop at the same time each day, writing the first sentence of a journal entry, or stretching before a workout. They're small switches. Flip them, and your brain shifts gears. But let's be honest, momentum isn't linear. You'll have days where it drops, days when life interrupts, days where progress feels invisible. That's normal. The goal isn't to never break the chain. The goal is to shorten the time it takes to get back on track. Miss a day, return the next. Slip up, reset. Don't dramatize it. Don't turn one bad moment into a narrative about how you always fail. Momentum thrives when you treat mistakes as hiccups, not identities. And please remember, rest isn't the enemy of momentum, burnout is. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is step back, breathe, recharge, and come back with clarity. Momentum is sustainable when it's built with compassion, not pressure. Slowly, you'll notice a quiet confidence forming. You'll realize you don't need to feel unstoppable to move forward. You just need to take the next small step repeatedly. And as those steps stack, momentum becomes your ally. It starts carrying you through days when motivation simply doesn't show up. Here's the part nobody likes to talk about. Even after you reset, restart, refocus, life will still throw chaos at you. Plans will fall apart. Emotions will swing. Unexpected problems will show up right when you finally feel like you're getting it together. And in those moments, consistency isn't about perfection. It's about staying connected to your direction even when the road gets bumpy. Consistency means you don't disappear on yourself when things get hard. Most people fall into the trap of all or nothing. If they can't do everything, they do nothing. If they miss one workout, they quit the routine. If they have one unproductive week, they label the whole goal impossible. But growth doesn't work that way. Real growth looks like adjusting, adapting, and continuing at a different pace instead of giving up altogether. Think of it like a ship in rough waters. When the waves crash, the captain doesn't say, "That's it, we're done." They steady the wheel. They slow down if needed, but they keep steering toward the destination. That's consistency, not dramatic progress every day, but refusing to drift back to the old patterns you just worked so hard to leave. One powerful mindset shift is this. Consistency is built on systems, not moods. If your progress depends on how you feel, you'll always be inconsistent. But if you build simple systems, routines, reminders, boundaries, they carry you even when your energy dips. Set times, set places, set cues. Reduce the number of decisions you need to make. Structure supports you when willpower is tired. And let's be honest, you will have setbacks. You'll lose focus sometimes. You'll make choices you're not proud of. That doesn't erase your progress. It simply gives you another chance to practice resilience. The most successful people aren't the ones who never slip. They're the ones who recover faster and keep moving without beating themselves up. Another key to staying consistent is remembering why you started. When you drift, reconnect with the bigger picture, the future you're building, the peace you want in your life, the version of you who doesn't settle. Remind yourself that the effort isn't just about goals, it's about becoming someone who can trust themselves. And don't carry the journey alone. Share your goals with someone supportive. Surround yourself with voices that lift you instead of sabotage your momentum. Sometimes a single conversation, a bit of encouragement, or accountability from someone who believes in you can keep you steady when your own motivation begins to fade. Above all, be patient with the process. Transformation is rarely loud. It happens quietly in the habits you maintain, the choices you repeat, the days you show up even when nobody notices. One day, you'll look back and realize that consistency didn't just change your results, it changed your identity. This year isn't about being perfect, it's about being committed. Reset, restart, refocus. And when life gets messy, don't abandon the journey. Adjust your stride, straighten your shoulders, and keep going. That steady, faithful effort, that's what turns 2026 into the year everything truly begins to shift for you.